Welcome to Chapter 6, the last chapter of this book. And then we'll go on to something educational. The Ghost of Silverlode. Just the other side of the town limits of Aidenville, on the old road leading up to Great Red Rock Canyon, lay the ruins of the old ghost town of Silverlode. It had been a booming silver mining camp before I was born. Ever since I could remember, there had been a wood sign just this side of Aiden Irrigation Ditch, which had separated Aidenville from this mining camp, and the sign read, "No person under 18 years of age admitted beyond this sign, unless accompanied by an adult, by order of Marshal and Deputy Sheriff Mark Trainer." Whew, I'm too excited. The road up Red Rock Canyon had been the only road to Silverlode and Aidenville until the mines petered out and Silverlode became a ghost town. Then the railroad had come to Aidenville, and a new road had been built that ran northward, following the railroad. The old road up Red Rock Canyon was only used by trappers and hunters. There were so many rock slides and washouts, it was impossible to travel by wagon. I learned when quite young why Uncle Mark had put up the sign. When I was about 3 years old, 2 Mormon kids, Larry Knudsen, it's K-N, it's not Knudsen. Larry Knudsen and William Bartell had gone exploring in the ghost town and were never seen again. The ghost town was honeycombed with old mine tunnels and mine shafts and giant excavations. Uncle Mark organized a search party, but a cloudburst that afternoon had washed away all of the tracks left by the 2 boys. And a heavy rain had caused landslides, rock slides, and cave-ins. Every able-bodied man in Aidenville had searched for the bodies of the 2 boys for 2 weeks, without success. And then the search was given up. That was the reason Uncle Mark had put up the sign. But he really didn't need a sign to keep the kids in Aidenville from exploring in the ghost town, because it was haunted by the ghost of Silverlode. Trappers and hunters returning at night had reported seeing the ghost. Many fathers told their sons they had seen the ghost, and even Uncle Mark said he had seen the ghost. I remember asking Papa about the ghost when I first heard about it from some other kids. "Well, they say it is the ghost of a man named Tinker, who owned the Tinker mine," Papa had told me. Like other greedy mine owners, he refused to put the proper safety devices in his mine. The day before the mine closed, 6 miners were killed when trapped in a cave-in. Miners who escaped lynched Tinker before the marshal could prevent it. And the miners who lynched Tinker put a curse on him that he would never know peace in death and would haunt Silverlode forever. They say that his ghost comes up from his grave at night and roams the ghost town. "Have you ever seen a ghost?" I asked. "No, J.D.," Papa answered. "But even without a ghost, Silverlode is no place for you or your brothers unless I'm with you. What happened to Larry Knudsen and William Bartell could happen to any boy foolish enough to go exploring there. I sure as heck wasn't going to take the chance of being buried alive or meeting up with a ghost. The ghost was welcome to his ghost town as far as every kid in Aidenville was concerned, until just a couple of weeks before my brothers were to leave for school in Salt Lake City. His brothers, I forget. I think that Tom is going to be going to the Catholic school this following school year, according to the book lore. That means JD's going to be on his own. No big brother. Wonder what he's going to do. But you'll have to stay tuned until I get to that book, which is the next book, which is 3 books from now. So, 2 books from now. Okay. It started on a Saturday afternoon. It was raining too hard to go swimming. Some of the kids came to our barn to play, as they often did when it was raining. Seth Smith showed up with his eyes all red. "Are you sick?" Tom asked as Danny Forrester and Sammy Leeds, Parley Benson, and Basil and I crowded around him. "I didn't sleep well all night," Seth said. "My Uncle Steve is visiting us, and he likes to tell ghost stories. He was telling us some last night before I went to bed. I was so scared, I was afraid to close my eyes all night." "There's no such thing as a ghost," Tom said. Sammy looked at my brother, as if Tom had just said that there was no sun in the sky. "How about the Ghost of Silverlode?" he asked. "My own pa told me he'd seen the ghost." "And mine," Danny said. "My pa too," Seth said. "Well, I don't care what your fathers think they saw," Tom said. "There's no such thing as a ghost." Sammy got angry. "You calling my pa a liar?" he demanded. "I'm not calling any of your fathers a liar," Tom said. "All I'm saying is that there's no such thing as a ghost, and there is a perfectly logical explanation for what they think they saw." "But," I protested, "Uncle Mark says he saw the ghost, and he's the marshal and deputy sheriff." Tom could sure be stubborn at times. "I don't care what Uncle Mark or anybody says. My great brain tells me there's no such thing as a ghost." Sammy got that sly, city slicker look on his face. "Have you ever been to Silverlode at night?" he asked. "No," Tom admitted, "but my father took me and my brothers in there in the daytime once." "Everybody knows that ghosts only appear at night," Sammy said. "My pa says when it gets dark, the ghost of Tinker comes right up from his grave. I bet you're afraid to go there at night." "I promised my father I'd never go to Silverlode unless he was with me," Tom said. "And besides, I also promised him I'd never make any more bets with you kids." "Poor excuse is better than none," Sammy said with a sneering look. Well, that got to Tom. "If I went there alone at night and came back and told you kids there was no ghosts, who would believe me?" he asked. "The only way I could prove it would be to have witnesses. All right, Sammy? Are you willing to go there at night with me and be a witness?" Poor Sammy suddenly lost his sly look. "Why me?" he asked. "The more witnesses the better," Tom said. "All of you can meet me here after curfew Monday night, and I'll prove there's no such thing as the Ghost of Silverlode." I figured Tom had nearly turned the tables on Sammy. None of the kids in their right minds would meet him. But I was wrong. Parley Benson pushed his coonskin cap to the back of his head. He patted the bowie knife in the scabbard on his belt. "I'm not afraid. I'll meet you." Tom looked at Parley with surprise, but only for a second. "How about any of you other fellows?" he asked. "The more witnesses, the better." The other kids either had to volunteer or admit that they were cowards. "I'll be here," Sammy said, but sure didn't look pleased with the idea. "Me too," Danny said. "Game if the rest of you are," Seth said. It sounded as if he were pronouncing his own death sentence. "Me no afraid to go," Basil said, "but I can't sneak out of my room." Basil was right. He lived in an apartment above the Palace Cafe, and even if he jumped from the 2-story window of his bedroom and didn't hurt himself, he could never get back into his room. Tom looked at the rope ladder leading up to his loft. "You can borrow my rope ladder," he said. "Tie it to your bed or something and use it to get out and back into your bedroom." On Monday morning, Papa told Tom and me to come to the advocate office after we'd finished our morning chores and distribute some handbills for a livestock auction. When we arrived at the Aidenville office, Tom took one stack of handbills and put them in the basket of his bicycle to deliver in town. I took the other stack, with the tack hammer and a box of tacks, to post it on trees and on the light poles on Main Street. I met Seth Smith when I was about half done. He offered to help me. I told my Uncle Steve that we were going to Silverlode tonight, Tom said. "Why did you do that?" I asked. "Now the whole deal is off. He'll tell your mother and father, and they'll tell the parents of all the other kids." I acted like I was angry, but I was really happy. I hadn't volunteered to go, but this would give Tom a good excuse not to go. "Uncle Steve gave me his word he wouldn't tell a soul," Seth said. "I just wanted him to know because he's interested in ghosts and ghost stories." Well, I thought to myself, if that's the case, it isn't even important enough to mention Tom. That night, when Tom and I were up in our bedroom, we started to get undressed. "What do you think you're doing?" Tom asked. "Going to bed," I said. "Oh, no, you're not," Tom said. "You're coming with me." "You didn't hear me volunteer to go," I said as I pulled off one shoe. I'll need you as a witness in case the other kids back out." "Then take Sven for a witness," I said as I took off my other shoe. A slow smile came to Tom's lips, which suddenly broke into a big grin. "Why not?" he asked. "I'll take you both, if Big Brother isn't afraid." I put my shoes back on, trying to think of some excuse for not going. Maybe I could pretend I was suddenly very sick. No, Tom was too smart for that. And if I had said I was afraid to go, that would make me a coward. I was trapped. We had to wait until almost 9 o'clock before Swin came upstairs. Papa and Mama said he was old enough to stay up an hour later than Tom and me. Tom met him at the top of the stairs and brought him into our bedroom. They had a pillow fight to see if you were awake. "We are going to Silverlode as soon as the curfew whistle blows," Tom said. "I'm going to prove there's no such thing as a ghost." "You must be crazy," Sven said, and looked afraid. "I'm not crazy," Tom said, "but it looks as if us little grade school kids have more courage than you big academy fellas." Sven had to admit that he was a coward, or go after that. Tom removed the screen from our bedroom window, and we all shimmied down the elm tree. We went to our corral and waited in the bright moonlight. Party was the first to arrive, then Sammy and Danny, followed by Seth. A few minutes later, Basil arrived. We all sneaked up the alleys until we could come to the town limits and the sign. We walked along the old road until we were at the corner of Whiskey Row, which used to be the main street of the mining camp, and Corey Street. I looked around and began to shiver. The thrifty Mormons had torn down many of the wooden buildings that used to be many of the buildings to use the lumber for making barns and pens. But there were still several deserted buildings on Whiskey Row, and I could see old weather-beaten shacks on both sides of the canyon, and the entrance to several old mine tunnels, and the giant excavations of big mines now overgrown with weeds and underbrush. Tom led us up Corey Street, as if he was just taking us on a nice, safe hike. We'd only gone a few steps when we heard a ghostly sound, and all of us except Tom stopped. He looked back over his shoulder. "It was just an owl," he said. We continued on to the end of Corey Street and started straight up the trail that had led to Boot Hill. "Go in single file now," Tom ordered us. "We're safe as long as we stay on the path. Get off it and you might fall into an old mine shaft or a tunnel or an old well." We were about halfway up the path leading up to the cemetery when we heard a roaring, flapping sound and saw what looked like 1,000 bats flying out of a hole by the side of the path. That was enough to make even Tom stop. Seth was the first to speak. "Maybe they are vampire bats," he said, stuttering. He was so scared. "My Uncle Steve says vampire bats will attack a person and drink their blood." "These are mine bats," Tom said. "You don't see 'em attacking us, do you? Come on." Tom continued to lead up the trail until we came to a place where the ground leveled out and we could see Boot Hill. In the eerie moonlight, I could see old weather-beaten wooden grave markers and 2 big marble headstones almost as high as I was. I knew one of those marble headstones was over the grave of Mr. Tinker, because Papa had showed it to us on our daylight trip to Silverlode. "Take a good look, fellas," Tom said casually. "You'll think he told us to look at a nice flower garden. You don't see any ghosts, do you? I told you there was no such thing as a ghost." He had no sooner got the words out of his mouth when the ghost of Tinker came right up out of its grave behind its headstone. He was dressed in a white sheet, just like a ghost is supposed to be. "Ooh!" the ghost cried out in a shrill, high voice. "It's so cold and dark in that grave." When he saw us, and the most shrill... Oh my gosh, I'm itching. Then he saw us, and the most shrill and terrifying cackling laughter came from him I'd ever heard. My feet felt as if they were nailed to the ground, and my tongue suddenly got so big I couldn't even scream. I could feel the hair on my head standing as stiff as bristles on a hairbrush. I could hear all the other kids except Tom screaming with terror. They all took off, running lickety-split down the trail. Tom grabbed my arm and spun me around as the ghost started coming toward us. "Let's get out of here," he shouted as he gave me a push. My feet came loose from the ground, and my tongue got small again. I let out a terrified scream and ran like 60 down the trail with Tom behind me and the sound of that crazy, horrible, cackling laughter of the ghost in my ears. Stop. How many minutes are we at? 17. This is a pretty long chapter. I can't. I'm having like these little itchy, painful hand issues right now. God help me. Ooh. So, they are definitely disrupting my ability to concentrate. So, I am going to have to try continuing after I've chilled out. I hope you've been doing good. I have a song I'm about to write for my granddaughter, and send that to her. I do believe it's going to be private. It's going to be far too embarrassing for the public. But, yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. Alright, are we done itching? Doesn't hurt? Okay. By the time Tom and I had reached the corner of Corey Street and turned onto Whiskey Row, the other kids were a block ahead in front of us. And who do you think was in the lead? My big brother, Swin. I took out after them as if I'd never run that fast. As if I'd ever run that fast at the foot races at the county fair. I'd have won every prize if I'd run that fast. I thought the other kids would wait for us when they reached the town limits of Aidenville, but they didn't. I learned the next day that none of them stopped until they were safe in their own beds. No, it's itching still. When Tom and I climbed through our bedroom windows, my oldest brother was sitting on my bed, puffing like a racehorse. Tom and I sat down beside him, and boy were we puffing too. I never thought that I could run more than a mile at top speed, but I did that night. Swin was the first to catch his breath. "Oh, I hope your great brain doesn't get any more crazy ideas," he whispered, so Mom and Papa and Aunt Bertha couldn't hear us downstairs. "And don't ever try to tell me again that there's no Ghost of Silverlode." "My great brain still tells me there's no such thing as a ghost," Tom whispered. "Then your great brain has shrunk down the size of a pea," Svin said. "We saw the ghost come right up out of his grave, and we heard the ghost. What more do you want? And I didn't see you standing there and telling the ghost that there was no such thing as the ghost. At least I wasn't leading the pack like you," Tom said. I made sure JD got out of there because I knew he was plenty scared." "And you weren't?" Svin said sarcastically. "Why should I have been?" Tom asked. "Did you ever hear of a ghost who physically harmed anybody?" "Then why did you run?" Svin said. "Because my big academy brother ran like a scared rabbit and left JD standing there petrified with fright," Tom said. Svin got up from the bed. "Just count me out of any more crazy ideas you get. I'm going to bed." Tom and I got undressed and into bed, and then a reaction set in on me. I began to shiver and whimper with fright. "Go to sleep," Tom said. "How can I?" I asked. "That ghost is going to haunt us for sure for disturbing him, and I don't care what your great brain tells you. For my money, that was an honest-to-goodness ghost." "Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't," Tom said. "And if it was a ghost, my great brain won't rest until I get a chance to talk to it and find out what makes a ghost and why they go around haunting places and people. And if it isn't a real ghost, my great brain won't rest until I find out who it has been scaring the daylights out of kids and grown-ups all these years." "Well, all I can say is that you're not going to get any help from me," I said. When I woke up in the morning, boom, is where we'll start next time I come around. All right. Yay.